All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar, She Shapes the Future, Career Insights from Women in Data and Analytics. My name is Malika Bender, and I'm the Staff Actuary for Strategic Community Outreach at the Casualty Actuarial Society, and I'm your moderator for today's session. The session today is hosted by the Casualty Actuarial Society, or the CAS, as well as the CAS Institute and the Network of Actuarial Women and Allies. So later on in the session, I'll share a little bit more about our organizations and how you can get connected and get resources if that's what you're interested in. I'll also be sharing a link later on in the session for you to enter our drawing for one of 5 $50 Amazon gift cards. So I hope you'll hang around, and we want everyone to sign up for that, and hopefully you'll win. Today we're joined by 4 amazing panelists who will be giving us a taste for how they've found success in their careers in data and analytics, what helped them along the way, and what they wish they had known. So we'll have Megan McCullough-Hart, who is the Global Head of Analytics and Collaboration in Climate Risk Advisory at Aon. We also have Devin McNichol, Head of Actuarial at Pinpoint Predictive. Regina Quintana, Business Insurance Data Quality Director at Travelers. And Efwa Turkson, Actuary at USAA. And I'm not going to read their bios to you because it's really more interesting to hear it straight from them. So we're going to dive right in. And to start off, I'd like to invite each of our panelists to tell us a little bit about yourself, the role that you currently do at work. What does your day-to-day role look like? How do you use data and analytics in your current role? And we'd also love to hear, a fun personal fact about each of you, like one of your hobbies, your family, etc., if you don't mind. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Devin. Devin, would you like to share?
Yes, hi everybody. It's nice to be here, and thank you, Malika. Again, my name is Devin McNichol. I am an actuary by trade, but also a data scientist, and I consider myself sort of an expert in predictive analytics. I live in Asheville, North Carolina, which is sort of a smaller city in Western North Carolina, and I work remote, so I work from home. And I've been working from home now for about 7 years, so I've sort of been doing that for a long time. My day-to-day is, I lead a department, so I have a lot of leadership, person interactions with individuals, data scientists, and also sort of like more product or sales people. But the part I really like about my job, not that I don't like talking to people, but is the data part, right? So I really enjoy sort of the coding part. I like to do peer reviews, which you'll never hear anyone else in the world say that. I like to really think about, insurance and how to make it affordable and available. I like to think about the challenges that, people face in terms of natural disasters and other sort of insurance related, segments of the industry. And a fun personal fact is this year I try to do try something new. And this year I'm trying to learn the piano, and I'm so terrible, but I love it. And my family makes me put in headphones so they don't have to hear all that again. So thanks again, that's me. And I'll pass it to Regina because she's next on my list.
Hello, my name is Regina Quintana, and like every good Texan, I should say, I am a Texan, but I currently live in Seattle, and I am a P&C actuary who made the switch to the data space. And like Devin, I'm also 100% remote, absolutely love it. And when I think of my job and my day-to-day, it's my goal is to help people like Devin, actuaries, data scientists, etc., spend more time analyzing and less time fighting data. So as y'all get through your careers, you're gonna get to a point where you're like, okay, this data's crap, right? So my goal is to make it a lot better, and so that people can actually answer business questions, things like that. And as far as like other hobbies and stuff, one thing I really love doing is connecting with younger people, really promoting the profession. One thing I was a co-founder of the organization Latino Actuary, so I would spend a lot of time connecting with younger students and with career changers, doing lots of resume reviews, all that good stuff. And I kind of called that like my night and weekend job, and then I loved it. And so now I'm going to be transitioning a bit more to the actuarial educators group. And as far as a fun fact, I am at 1,000+ day streak on Duolingo, learning Spanish, German, and French. Don't try to have a conversation with me in French or German. Spanish, I can probably get by. And I will pass it over to Efwa.
All right, thank you, Regina. All right, so my name is Efwa. I live in the Boston area, and I've been working as an actuary for more than 10 years now. I currently work at USAA, and like Devin, I also work as a predictive modeling actuary. Peer reviews are fun. You're right, Devin. I don't know if I want to do it every day, but they're definitely fun. So what I do, yeah, like Devin, I work as a predictive modeling actuary, and what we do is really help the insurance company to estimate how much losses are going to happen in the future. Basically that. I've been doing that for about 5 years now. It's been fun. I work remotely from home in the Boston area. I also enjoy working remotely, especially because I have a very young family. So it's very helpful with, going to the school bus, getting them. I love that. Fun fact about me. So I love cooking. Well, actually, I didn't think I liked cooking, but that's what my family told me, that I love cooking. And I realized I actually do get joy from just arranging the food, like just eating it. I enjoyed that. So I love cooking. Like I do it when I have free time. I also sing with the choir at my church, and I also really enjoy doing that. So that's a little bit about me. I will pass it to the final person, who is Megan.
Hello, so happy to be here. My name is Megan Hart, and I've been with Aon for almost 13 years. This is my first role out of grad school, so I've kind of stuck around for a while. I started my career in Chicago and then relocated back to my hometown of Troy, Michigan, which is just outside of Detroit, once my husband and I realized how helpful grandparents can be with children. So I've spent most of my career working in the catastrophe management area. So that's really focusing on helping insurers and reinsurers manage their natural catastrophe, which I'll call NatCat risk, using a range of different types of models. So catastrophe models, climate models, and a lot of other data, claims data, weather data, historical loss data, post-event learnings, all those things kind of go into what we do day to day. My role is hybrid. So about 50 to 60% of my time is really spent either in office or with clients. I travel about 50% of the time, so I reach the goal pretty easily. But I will tell you that my wonderful colleagues in my home office do not see me very much because of that. So when I'm usually not traveling, I'm usually working from home like I am today. In terms of my day-to-day, so I lead a global team of analytics professionals that, again, we work with the insurers and reinsurers on managing their NatCat risk. And now in a newer role that I have, I work directly with the insureds as well in terms of bringing more data and analytics into their holistic risk management process or strategy. So I work on interesting consulting projects, as well as have a team that develop tools and solutions directly for clients that we can deploy to them, again, to better manage their risk. Data and analytics are the foundation of everything that we do. So that's really kind of what I eat, sleep, and breathe. And then really find that our key kind of role is really listen to the challenges that our clients are facing, and then look across our toolkit, which is very broad in terms of the data and models that we have access to, and determine how to kind of best answer those questions. And very importantly, help with clients to understand, what are the key takeaways, what are the limitations in the data, How do you really kind of understand the impacts from low frequency, high severity type of events? So those are often areas where we have a lack of data, so we have to be careful with what we do there. Fun fact, so I have an 8-year-old that just started 3rd grade, and I have a 4-year-old that's in preschool, and they keep my husband and I very busy with sports and activities. We're always at swim meets and soccer and gymnastics and all that fun stuff. We also love to travel. So I was just moving things around behind me because we never don't have semi-full suitcases just like strewn about our house. So I'm like strategically moving them so you can't see them from our last trip. So again, happy to be here.
Oh, that's awesome. I also have to strategically move the suitcases out of my background sometimes too. I love that. All right. Thank you so much, all of you. So before we get into the next question, I am going to just quickly put up on the screen a QR code for all of you who have joined us today. If you'd like to enter to win a $50 gift card, you can scan that code. Or you can go to the link that was just put into the chat for everyone. And I'll leave this up for a minute or so while we get into the next few questions. So, we really want to hear now, hearing sort of what you all have done or are doing in your day-to-day life. We'd love to hear how you all have gotten there, right? Like, where did you start? And I know that for many people, a linear career path isn't a reality. For some that it is. So it's great to hear sort of how you all got your starts. So we want to go all the way back first and talk about, as early as we can, what did you plan to do or want to do as a career when you were in high school and or college? I will say I wanted to be a pop star and also a CFO. 2 very different things. And I'm going to start with Devin again first, and then I want to go to Megan next after. So Devin?
Malika, you can still be a pop star. I believe in you. It's not too late.
And Ethel can sing with me since she's in a choir.
Great. Yes, I love that. Yeah, I mean, so when I was in high school, I didn't, or really even college, had never heard of an actuary. So that was definitely not on my checklist of things I wanted to be. When I started college, I wanted to do environmental science. And what I realized quickly in college was I was really, really bad at chemistry, like really bad. And I was looking ahead and I was saying, I'm not good at chemistry 1. How am I going to be at, later and down the line chemistries? But I was really excelling in my math classes. And so for me, my career has just been a series of following opportunity. And in college, I feel like I was like, okay, chemistry is not for me. I don't think I'm ever going to be good at it. I don't have a natural ability, but I do have a natural ability in math. And so it's just kind of like following that, what felt right as far as taking classes. And I encourage everyone who's either in college or starting college to not be so strict about if you know exactly what you want to do, like let's say you want to be a doctor or something like that. I'm not saying, don't pursue that, but maybe try to have a little bit of an open mind to, hey, I'm taking these calculus classes, or hey, I'm taking these art classes, or whatever it is that I'm really enjoying. Because for me, that sort of led me down a path that ended up in different opportunities coming up in the math space. And yeah, I mean, even when I graduated college, again, I didn't really know what an actuary was. So, but just having sort of that background and moving forward, those are the types of opportunities that opened up for me. So follow, I guess what's natural is a piece of advice that I have for anyone in college or otherwise, in high school as well. And just keeping an open mind, because things are going to pop up. And for me, it was actuarial science, and for you, it may, be some other thing. But having that, I think there's a little bit of courage involved with saying yes, and also dropping things, right? Like I had a dream of being a ecologist, and really quickly it was like, wait, there's a lot of friction here. And so being able to sort of pivot into something where there was less friction, I think allowed me to fall into something that I was accidentally good at. So that's sort of how I ended up being an actuary.
Megan, how about you?
Yeah, perfect. So I raised my hand to answer this question because I really wanted to use this question as an opportunity to make a recommendation for those of you that are in high school or are earlier in your college career, similar to what Devin just did, giving you guys some advice. So like everyone here, I was good at math. And I also really liked science. So chemistry was one of my favorite subjects. So I always sort of looked at, I know, sorry. I always sort of looked at engineering as kind of what I was going to do when I got to college. I didn't know what kind of engineer I wanted to be. But my freshman year, I was like, hey, I really like skyscrapers and I think bridges are really cool. So maybe I'll do civil engineering. And so, that was kind of my initial path forward is, hey, what do I like? What do I think is pretty cool? And I'm going to go that route. Pretty early in my time, so I went to Notre Dame, I started to get to know my professors pretty well. So I started joining a lot of clubs. I was going to office hours and just kind of getting to know everybody. And because of that, I ultimately decided to do some undergraduate research. And participating in research really, really helped me to understand kind of the breadth of the types of roles that civil engineers could do. I also really quickly realized I was not going to be the one that is designing beams and columns and determining how many pieces of rebar are going to go into them. I was really a big picture kind of person, is trying to understand, broader types of events and impacts. So I'm going to age myself a little bit here. But when I was in college, early in my college career, is when Hurricane Katrina hit. Tremendous damage, huge impacts to the insurance industry. And the professor that I was doing research with was actually contracted as an expert witness by the insurance industry to understand the event and the damages. So I worked with him on that for several years. So really got a view into the insurance industry. I got to go down to Louisiana and Mississippi for site visits several times and really understand natural catastrophes, how they impact communities, and really how the role that insurance can play in resilience. Katrina then was quickly followed by the Indian Ocean tsunami. So I actually pivoted into doing some research around tsunamis. And I spent a summer, part of the summer in Thailand to look at kind of what happened and why did we see so much damage and death in that case. And then spent the second half of the summer in Oregon, so looking at the Pacific Northwest and studying the Cascadia subduction zone and trying to think through what will happen when a similar event impacts North America. And then also, in the midst of this is, with Katrina and Rita and Wilma all happening, this is when a lot of research was starting to come out around climate change, which we called global warming at the time, and the potential impact on hurricanes and is it leading to more frequent and severe hurricanes. So I worked on some research on that topic and got to, present at a conference in Australia and got integrated into the wind engineering community that way. Because of all those opportunities, I ended up staying at Notre Dame to continue my PhD, focusing on natural catastrophe modeling, and got more and more familiar with the important data and analytics that the insurance industry has. So that kind of moved me into the insurance industry after I finished grad school. So all this to say, get to know your professors, join clubs. If you have the opportunity, do undergraduate research, both at your own university or summer programs at other universities. And that's just going to give you a lot of exposure to what's out there. And so I think everybody thought civil engineer, you go build a building and you determine how many pieces of wood it needs. But it really opened my eyes to what, understanding the built environment and how we can create more resilient communities and kind of getting into that area.
Thanks, Megan. It's really interesting to hear just sort of how all those opportunities sort of put you in the position or moved you into that position to get where you are now. Real quick, we did get a question from an audience member for Devin. You'd mentioned, feeling friction in your sort of choice of career path. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. What I mean is, what I meant in that, when I was talking about that, is really, when you're in college and maybe you're sort of set on an end goal. For me, I was set on an end goal, and that was to do life sciences, to do ecology, and the friction for me was I was really struggling emotionally and academically with being bad at a certain class. And that was friction to me. And I wasn't used to being bad at school, especially when I tried, so that was tough. And to me, I was trying, I was going to the tutoring, I was feeling really stuck. And I'm not saying that you should quit when you feel stuck or when something is hard, but just being open-minded to that thing of like, okay, I have this goal, but it's not really working for me. And as I move forward in it, it's not feeling correct, reassess and kind of say, what do I like doing? That's what college to me is all about, is figuring out not only what you're good at, but what you enjoy. And so if you're feeling, for me, I feel like if I had continued to try to do chemistry, I probably could have succeeded and gotten my degree, but I would have had a hard time with it. I just know that now about myself. And your life changes a lot from the time you're 18 to the time you're 25. And my advice there is just move through decisions, not necessarily because they're easy, but maybe you'll feel a certain way. It's like, for me, I never knew I was so excited to go to calculus class, which is crazy. And everybody around me was like, you're insane. Calculus sucks. Nobody likes it, but I loved it, right? And so it was an opportunity for me to say, like, let me explore this a little bit because I'm enjoying being there, and it doesn't feel like I'm having to force this specific path. And so that's kind of what I meant by friction. And I will say, on Megan's point, befriend your professors always, even if you don't like them. Go see them, say hello to them. They will be the gatekeepers of a lot of opportunity moving forward, even after you graduate. So I very much like that point, Megan, and I totally agree.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that idea of just sort of leaning into what you're talented at, where your talents are and what you're enjoying. And it's okay to do that. And you don't necessarily have to follow a path that you thought that you were, interested in before. Like you allow yourself to learn and change, right? Regina and Ifua, so how did you two learn about the career that you're in now? How did you discover it? And feel free to tell us also, if you had a different sort of thing in mind when you started off. And how about Regina? I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I am definitely a bit on the untraditional side. So unlike some of the other panelists, I didn't know what I wanted to do after college, right? Like I absolutely had no clue, no job, no nothing. So what does one do? Pick up and move to a new state. So that's exactly what I did. I went from Austin to St. Louis, Missouri. I ended up in St. Louis on a road trip of all things. And I was like, all right, I just want to go have some adventures, go explore. And didn't have a lot of money, right? And I needed a job. So I found a job at an Allstate agent's office. So that's how I entered in insurance. So I was answering calls, quoting policies for home and auto, that sort of thing. It was a part-time gig, so I, at that point, needed health insurance. So like, let me go get a full-time position. So I moved over to claims at Fireman's Fund. And I don't even think Fireman's Fund exists anymore. And around that time, it's like, okay, if I'm already in insurance, I have a math degree, why don't I go ahead and pursue the actuarial profession? I did not learn about it until I was in college. I think I saw it on a flyer. And so I started doing that. passed an exam, applied for jobs all around the country, and I ended up getting an offer in Seattle. So that's where I moved, and I've been in Seattle ever since. I absolutely love it. But as I started, going through my actuarial career, started thinking like, okay, to be fair, actuarial career can be very limiting. It is very insurance focused, and at the time remote work wasn't a really big thing, so I wanted to see how can I increase my chances of getting a role somewhere, and that's why I made the switch to data, because every company needs data. That is not very specific to industry. And I made the switch to data management. Of course, I am still in insurance, so I didn't go far. And it's actually helped me. So my actuarial experience and understanding understanding the viewpoint of a data user has helped me with my job. And speaking of Travelers, this is one thing I forgot to mention in my intro, is that Travelers is hosting an actuarial job shadow this month. So Colton, if you wouldn't mind just dropping the link in the chat. So I would love for all of y'all to sign up. It's free, a couple of hours. I'm even hosting a job shadow session for those who are interested in more of the non-traditional type work that actuaries do. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. So if you don't know what you want to do, that's okay. You can go out and explore, and you'll eventually figure it out.
Thanks, Regina. How about you, Efwa?
Yeah, I can go next. Thank you. So in high school, I was a science major, and I was okay. I loved math. I really enjoyed I've always enjoyed my math classes. So I was leaning towards doing something math related. So I forgot to mention this in my intro, but I'm originally from Ghana. So I grew up in Ghana before moving here to the States. So one thing I was looking to do back in high school was, okay, I mean, I guess I could do accounting. But then I feel like everyone who liked math was doing accounting, and actuarial science wasn't popular at all. And that's like the main reason why I moved here, to learn more. So I was thinking, okay, maybe architecture, because I have an artistic side to me where I was actually considering fashion design or something math related. So I thought, well, as I was applying to college, I found out, okay, well, it's architecture, and it's a mix between, math and, design. So I actually applied to be an architecture major. Um, and then as I was because I applied to multiple schools, and for one particular school I ended up going to, I found out about actuarial science. It was on their list of majors, and I had no idea what it was. It was the first time being offered. So I talked to my dad. My dad is a professional accountant, and he knew about it. He had a friend who had worked as an actuary, so he connected me, and I learned more about it, and I was excited about it because it was math. It's a nice combination between math and finance. So I really loved that, and that was really it for me. Yeah, how many years down the line, I have no regrets, to be honest. It's been great.
And Efwa, we had a question in the chat about what is the difference between a predictive analytics actuary and a reserving or a pricing actuary? Would you be able to help us with that one?
Absolutely. So a reserving actuary primarily would help the insurance company estimate how much money they need to save to pay claims. Because like if you think of what an insurance company does for you is you pay it some money, and then when you unfortunately get into a car accident, we don't want you to do that. But if it does happen, we need to have enough money to pay out those claims. So a reserving actuary would help the company estimate how much money to set aside every year, so that if people get into accidents, we have a fund to take from and pay those for those accidents. A predictive analytics actuary would take data. So we would look at historical losses. And by that, actually, I think a very good example would be if you think about how well you're going to do in class, or if you're in a class right now in college, and like, how well am I going to do in this class? Some things that will affect it would be how many hours you study. Are you actually going to class? Are you spending your time watching Netflix instead of studying? All of those things would affect your likelihood of actually passing the class, which is what a predictive analytics person would do. Predictive modeling actually would do. We look at all of those characteristics, like how long, how many hours are, is the driver driving? Are they driving when they're tired? Well, that would be hard to measure. But like, there's some characteristics we look at to determine what the loss will be if it does happen. Yeah. So yeah, we can say, okay, would it happen, which would be like a demand modeling type thing. But I'm starting to go into too much detail, so I will stop here. I hope I answered the question well.
But that's part of what is exciting about working in data and analytics, right? Is that there are so many different things that you can consider and so much data in the world. And like almost like anything you can imagine is out there to be analyzed. So it's easy to nerd out on it a little bit,
Yeah.
I think. Okay, so actually on the topic of nerding out, I really want to hear sort of what excites you about the work that you all do, and if you feel like it has a positive impact on the world, how so? And I'll start with Megan, and then we'll go around the room.
Thank you. I really enjoy my job. And one of the reasons I enjoy my job is because I have never stopped learning. There's always something new to learn. And I've had the opportunity to sort of pivot in my career a few times to say, all right, that seems really cool. I'm going to go work with the cyber team for a little while. Or now I'm working on climate and with a different set of types of clients. And so there's just been a huge breadth of opportunity within this space. Insurance also isn't going to go away. It's around forever. So there's great job security. It's a great industry to be in. There's a lot of opportunity to travel, experience the world. There's just a huge breadth of opportunities. It gets a bad reputation. People think it sounds boring. But it is necessary to keep economies moving. It's necessary for progress. And it does truly, since I'm in natural catastrophes, it creates more resilient communities. So when you think about a hurricane or an earthquake, communities bounce back infinitely faster in areas where they have insurance in place compared to areas where there's low insurance penetration. So in that aspect, I do feel, that, the work that I do day to day is creating a more positive environment. Insurance companies and the work that they do are often also the best way for homeowners and business owners to gain a better understanding of their risk and make better decisions themselves. So when you're trying to understand, what is my flood risk, or I need a new roof, what kind of roof should I put on? That data is there's a wealth of knowledge in this industry to help you make some of those good decisions. As part of my role, I also lead academic collaboration strategy. So I came from an academic background, and I still get to maintain those relationships in this role. So we fund a lot of cutting edge research that really helps us to advance our understanding of natural catastrophes, and that can help with preparedness and planning. We work with municipalities and local governments, and in terms of understanding their risk profile and their risk management, which includes insurance, but also includes investments in mitigation and adaptation. So what I would say is, again, there's one day I'll be talking to somebody about Australian bushfire, and the next day I'm talking to someone about Chilean tsunami, and the next day I'm talking to someone about a volcano that's about to erupt in Alaska, and it's just never ending in terms of the types of knowledge that you can build on, and just the community that you build and get to lean on. That I get to work with such smart people all the time that I'm like, I never have the answers, rarely, but I know who does. And being able to have that sort of collaborative team is something that I really love day to day.
Thank you. How about Regina? Do you want to go next?
Sure. So one thing I've learned about myself is that I really like to help people. And so one thing that my job allows me to do is to help end users, actuaries, data scientists, etc., do their job better. And so, as Megan just mentioned, a lot of the work that insurance companies can do will help mitigate some losses, like just makes the world a better place. But also when I think about like my contribution to the world, honestly, I think about a lot of the work that I do with OLA, the Organization Latino Actuaries. For those of y'all who don't know, the actual profession has a bit of a diversity problem, right? Like it is, the makeup of those who get their letters isn't necessarily representative of the people in the US, especially like for certain populations like Latinos. And so what we did when we created OLA, like the goal is to help increase the diversity of the profession. And I love like helping my student. I still call them my students, even though I really haven't been, I'm not super active with the organization much these days. But I would get a lot of, text messages from people saying that they got interviews or got jobs. And it can be life-changing. Like this career path can set people and families up for generational wealth, right? So that's like something that could absolutely help in the future. And then also, as far as like women go, we're not 50% of the actuaries either. So we're just trying to do what we can to help increase the representation of women in the profession through all different levels. So like, yeah, I do love my day job, but I don't know, getting text messages from students saying that they have their first grown-up job when they came from a working family household, I don't know. It just makes me feel all nice.
Thanks, Regina. And I think that's one of the things that people don't realize when you become a professional, especially if you're part of a profession that's small, is there are so many opportunities to volunteer and like give your time outside of just the everyday work that you do, to make our profession
sure.
the world better, right? Yeah.
And I'll just chime in with that because that helped me get the job that I have today because of my actuarial volunteering. Your network just really grows. And if you want to start looking at positions at other companies, like, hey, I know that actuary, we volunteered in the same committee. So it's another great way to increase your chances of finding new positions.
Nice. And how about Efwa? What excites you about your work? And then we'll come to Devin next.
Yeah, very similar for me also, like Regina. I realize I love helping people and I really get that glow when, I do something at work, I see the light bulb go off on someone's face. It excites me. I just love that. So that's what I really enjoy doing. So I could be doing reserving, I could be doing pricing, I could be doing predictive modeling. It doesn't matter what context it's in as long as I'm helping people. And also working in insurance, we're helping people have protection when they most need it. So that also really does motivate me in the work that I do.
Devin?
Cool. Yeah, I loved all you guys' answers. I hear, like, I think what excites me about, one of the things that really excites me about what I do now is, now that I'm a leader in the past several companies I've been at, I've only had one job in actuarial science where I was not the only woman in the entire department. And at first that was kind of intimidating, but I realized that I had, like, once I started leading people, I had a lot of bosses that were kind of like finance bro, like all business, all bottom line, all money. It's always that. It's always about your salary, and it's always about like moving forward and all the stuff, which all that is important. But I felt that there was a lack in compassion just in the workplace of like, hey, how you doing? How are you feeling? What do you want? What are your goals? Not just like professionally, but personally. And one of the things that I feel like I've been able to do is sort of bring that aspect of caring and compassion into the workplace in a way that I think has changed some of the individuals and the way that they think about leadership in the places that I've been. And so I know this isn't like super technical, and we're talking about data science, and we're talking about, you know, being in these STEM roles, but there's something to sort of like bring that kindness and bring that respect that I think, especially when you are any type of minority, or you know, you're maybe an outsider within an organization, you have a different perspective. And so just like Regina, sort of those feelings in my early career where I did feel like an outsider, or I felt like maybe, you know, I was nervous about, you know, being the only woman and being younger in the workplace. Those things led me also to volunteering in different ways, not just through the CAS, but in other avenues for things like, you know, Data Ethics for All, and some of these other organizations that actuaries are a part of. And one thing I care deeply about is affordability and availability of insurance. So in places that, it's like if you think of a city, like let's take Katrina, for example, it's a really good example. Most of the losses, or one recently that impacted me, Hurricane Helene in Western North Carolina, the people that get impacted and their property that gets impacted often are people in lower economic status, and for all kinds of reasons, systemic and insurance alike. And a lot of the committees that I work on, we're trying to find ways to address those types of inequities when it comes to pricing and availability in insurance, because it's really, really important, especially for those who aren't financially well off or have a bunch of availability and opportunity, to be protected when those events come, whether they're weather related or fire or theft or whatever it is. And so bringing that sort of like different perspective to an insurance company, it's not always maybe the easiest thing, and maybe, you know, it's hard, maybe sometimes it could be hard to be heard, but people do hear you, right, when you're there. And being different gives you a little bit of an edge in a lot of ways. And so I think what we're seeing now in the last maybe 5 years, at least in my personal opinion, is like a lot of women actuaries coming to the table, stepping up. You know, I'm going to conferences and I'm seeing like way more women and way more people of color and way more out gay people and way more, I mean, there's just, we're coming to the table and we're saying, this isn't just a financial like leverage money making endeavor. This is a community like need. It's a social need. And we're sort of bringing those perspectives, and it's a really exciting time to be an actuary, because I think maybe 15 years ago there was a lot less of that. And the women here, and there's lots of other women that are sort of leading this charge in actuarial science, are really trying to like open those doors for girls and women like you all to, you know, come and sort of help and be part of making insurance a more equitable product for, you know, for the US, but if you're Megan, for the entire world. So I just kind of want to like lean on, like, things are changing and we need more women to be doing math and to be showing up and to be sort of like speaking out. And it's just exciting to be part of that, and hope that you guys, whether or not you decide to be an actuary or not, are able to move that forward in whichever path that you go.
Thank you, Devin. I want to pull on that thread a little bit with some of the other panelists too, because you'd mentioned, you know, just kind of feeling like you were in that bro space when you started your career. And I'd love to hear from the other folks as well, if you feel like you experienced any challenges as a woman in the data and analytics fields, and especially, you know, what maybe helped you get through that, or if you don't feel like you got through it, you know, why that is. And I'll go with Efua first.
So the most challenging thing for me on the path to being an actuary is really just combining having children and then taking those exams. Because one thing that we haven't really touched on is, to be a credentialed actuary, the number of exams that you have to take, and they can be very challenging. So that has really been the toughest part of my journey so far. What has really helped me through I can touch on that too, or that would be, yeah. So what has really helped me through has been having a really good support system. So if I have to study, I have like, family, maybe my sisters will help out. Also having a good network. So Regina touched on that a little bit. She talked about, having a good network and getting her current job. Having a good network is very good. I can't like underestimate that. Because one way that has been very helpful for me is I look at my network and then I have in my mind where I'm trying to go. So around my network, okay, I'm seeing women who have achieved, like even just on this call, everybody else I'm on the panel with, I'm looking at them and like, wow, I want to be there, and I'm being inspired. So definitely the network, I would stress that has been very, very helpful.
Thanks, Efwa. Okay, how about Megan?
Sure, I totally agree with everyone else. What I can say though is I've been lucky that I have always had really strong female leaders, kind of leading the charge ahead of me. And that has been hugely helpful in my career. And it's also been a good reminder to me of what I need to be for everybody else. And so, I have one manager who told me, I've had, I have two kids as well. And she sat down with me and she goes, Megan, not every year has to be the best year you've ever had. And she kind of said, if you need time to step back and just, work less hours and choose your projects a little bit differently, we will support you for that. And so, I think hearing that, permission has been really helpful. And also kind of just recognizing that I have great support, and also seeing other women make those decisions of, okay, I'm gonna dial back my travel, or drawing some of these boundaries and getting support for making those decisions. And so it's always a good reminder for me, when I have my own team, to say, oh, your kids are sick. It's all good. I'll cover your calls today. Or, we'll see if we can get a bit more time on the project, or, and so just making sure that everyone knows that they have that support. But really just recognizing that it's up to each of us to kind of draw our own boundaries, communicate with your team members, your leadership. Also recognize that your boundaries can change over time, and that is okay. So just kind of continue to talk. No one's going to help you if you don't say something out loud. So instead of kind of stewing, if you're frustrated about something, make sure that you have the kind of relationship with your, managers and leadership where you are supported for advocating for yourself, and that you're willing to be honest with that. And again, that can change with time, but that's really important in order to create really a good, engaging, collaborative environment to work in, and that's what we should all strive to be in.
And it can be so easy to fall into that trap of kind of achieving, especially for all of us in, like STEM and data focused fields, and taking actuarial exams and things like that. It's all about achievement. So setting those boundaries and finding people that can help you do that is really important. I wanted to revisit Devin. Did you have anything to add in terms of like challenges that you faced as a woman in the field?
Yeah, I mean, Megan, I could not agree more on communication. One of the things early mistakes I made was working really hard in silence. So I try to prove myself, and I'm good at this, and I was really bad at it because I just started. And by the way, if you're starting something and you're good at it, it's not good enough for you. You need to be bad at it at first. In my opinion, if you're STEM oriented person, you need to have goals, and you need to like start off being bad at something. And so when I started my first actuarial role, I was not a good actuary. I mean, I didn't really know what I was doing. I needed a lot of support. And that's just true for all actuaries, I think, by the way, unless you're like super special, which I'm sure there are some people like that. But one of the mistake I made that I think kind of set me back a little bit in my career for a short amount of time was that I wasn't I wasn't telling my leaders or the people around me what I wanted. And I was seeing other people be promoted. I was passing my exams, but I was just working, right? I was just kind of like head down working, and I wasn't having these conversations where I was saying like, hey, I want to be promoted. Hey, I want to get a raise. And that led to a situation where I think I was undervalued and underpaid compared to my peers. And I had a mentor tell me, or maybe a couple years into my career, and I said, why didn't you think about me for this promotion? And he basically said, like, I didn't know you wanted it. And that was like a moment where I was like, oh gosh, I'm not communicating. I'm not telling people what I need. And so I think it's really important when you're early on in your career, you're going to want more money. You're going to want to work from home if that's important to you. You're going to want to get promotions. And those are going to be the things that you probably are asking for. Later on, that might look like I need more time for my kids, or I need more time for my family, or I want to travel less, or maybe I want to be the CEO of this company. And if you're not saying those things out loud, they're not going to happen. You have to advocate for what you want, and what you want is probably going to change over time. As it changes, keep saying it, keep talking, be annoying if you have to. Make sure that your leaders know what you want, because they will advocate for you if you're telling them what you need and what you're looking for out of your career. So I love that you hit on that, Megan, and I very much second that advice.
Thanks, Devin. And Regina, do you want to close us out? I know being a woman in data and analytics isn't all challenges. There are a lot of benefits too. So did you want to add something there?
Sure. So unlike some of the panelists, I am completely child-free, right? So being a parent was never really my thing. I always wanted to be more of like the fun auntie and stuff like that, right? Spoil the kids, send them back home. So being an unmarried, unmarried, child-free woman in STEM can kind of lead to a really fun life, right? Especially if you work remotely like I do. You want to go take a vacation, hey, just take your laptop with you, right? You can have a vacation while still working. And it just like helps you afford what could be a really fun lifestyle. And so one thing that I've started doing when talking with younger people, when we were growing up, it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up, blah, blah, blah. I started asking people, what kind of life do you want to live? It's like, what do you want your life to be as you get older? And then maybe seeing what sort of career can help you make that life happen. And I don't know, I think STEM careers could very much be an answer to that question for some of y'all in the audience.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Regina. So we might have a little bit of time for Q&A, but I do want to share a few resources first with everyone in the audience, and I am going to flash up that QR code again, so hang in there. So just a little bit about our host organizations today. The Casualty Actuarial Society is one of the leading international organizations providing credentialing and education to property and casualty risk management professionals, especially actuaries. And, so you heard about exams and all of the credentials and great accomplishments that all of these folks have had, and it's come with a lot of challenges. But we're one of the organizations that helps you get to those places in your career. And if this session got you interested in considering a career as an actuary or some other related professions, or if you're already headed down that path, we talked a lot about how like leaning on your network and finding those resources that can help you get there is really important. So I highly encourage you to join CAS Student Central, which is our free membership program. It provides a ton of career resources, access to industry events, our summer programs, scholarship opportunities, and internship and job listings and study support tools. So it's a great one. It's free, and you can go to casstudentcentral.org to sign up. And I also wanted to share a little bit about our partner, the Network of Actuarial Women and Allies, or NAWA. NAWA aims to support women and allies in the actuarial profession at all levels of their career. For example, they run a mentoring program to pair women at different stages of their careers to share career advice. So again, finding that network, this is one of those places where you can do that. They work to create a sense of community among women and allies across all of the sectors that we all work in. And they provide opportunities for personal and professional development tailored toward women and allies. And NAWA has an upcoming annual meeting. That's one such example of their professional development offerings. And that's going to be a virtual event on September 30th. And there also are going to be in-person gatherings after that event in New York City and other locations. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can follow NAWA on LinkedIn or Instagram, or visit their website at nawaactuaries.org, or you can email ally@nawaactuaries.org. And actuary is not the only awesome career in data and analytics. There are many more, and the CAS Institute, or ICAS, also offers a few different credentials that are worth checking out. The Certified Specialist in Catastrophe Risk, Certified Catastrophe Risk Management Professional, and the CSPA, or Predictive Analytics and Data Science credential. So all of these different paths, it's great to be able to get the education that you need to do these jobs well so that you can succeed. And all of the women that you've seen here have, pursued those that additional education to be able to do their jobs well. And ICAS also has an Almost Nowhere podcast where they focus on all things P&C insurance, data science, predictive analytics, and AI. So you can get that anywhere that you get your podcasts. Okay, so speaking of networks, it never hurts to reach out, right? If you're interested in learning more about any of these professions, or you just want to connect with any of our speakers, they've all graciously offered to for you to reach out to them if you're interested. So if you have a specific question for one of our panelists today, you're encouraged to get in touch, and you can take a photo of this slide and email them after this event with your specific questions. And I'll leave it up there for one more second.
Yeah, Malika, I'll just add here because I see some logistical questions about exams and things like that. Happy to talk with anyone individually about those things and share my tips and tricks for passing exams. I know we are all good test takers. If you're in this world, then you're taking tests, right? And so I think you're struggling, right? So it's like if you're not passing an exam, I see some questions about that. There are ways and tricks that I think that this group can probably give you some advice if you do want to reach out to us. I think that's probably the best way.
Thanks, Devin. So I'll put up the QR code for our drawing one more time, and I'll leave it up there. We can take a question. We've got maybe 2 more minutes. And so why don't we talk a little bit more about the exams and any really professional exams that you have to take to get to your career. What are some of the things that helped you to get through and pass those exams or pass those credentials? Does anybody else want to add something?
I got
Yeah,
lucky. I didn't have to take any exams. The CSCR and CCRMP are newer. And so I actually participated in writing the questions for them. But they're great exams because there's some great questions in there.
Thank you for your help in doing that. It's one of the ways that we can give back, right, is by helping to the next generation to, get the education that they need. Efua, what about you?
Yeah, I was just say quickly that trying something else. If you're stuck on an exam and it's not working, do something. Don't do the same thing you've done over and over again. And that has worked for me in the past. So like maybe studying with somebody else, starting a study group. Don't use your old material, stuff like that. I see we have just 10 seconds. So
Yeah. Just 10 seconds. Keep trying. Don't give up on the exams. You can do it.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. So we have reached the end of our webinar today. If you didn't get a chance already, make sure you enter that drawing, and I will go back to the screen where you can see our speakers' email addresses so you can ask them all your burning questions. I want to thank Regina, Megan, Devin, and Efua for their time today, and thank all of you for joining us for this event today. I hope that you had a good time and that you got some good insights. And we look forward to speaking with you again soon. Thanks, everyone.
thank you.
Thanks.
Everyone.
Bye, y'all.